Hi everyone, welcome to week 7. Today we're going to be talking about how nutrition is more than just food. There are many components that play into our nutrition. So we are going to address sleep. Are you getting enough sleep? We're going to address how we are feeling emotionally and mentally. And then we're also going to talk about mindset and self-care. So all of these components play into our nutrition. All right, so the importance of sleep. Sleep regulates our hormones. And the one hormone that I wanted to bring up today is cortisol, because cortisol is our stress hormone. So, as athletes, our bodies are under a lot of stress physically. So, when we don't get enough sleep or we're working out an extra amount of time, the hormone cortisol is actually increased. And sleep helps us maintain regular levels of cortisol. So hence why we want to be able to get enough sleep to make sure that our cortisol can be regulated properly. And then another important aspect of sleep is that just like protein, sleep helps us rebuild our muscles. So protein can only go so far in muscle rebuilding. We need to make sure that we're supplementing that with plenty of sleep, because when our body is resting, those hormones and the protein can actually do their job and rebuild the muscle. So sleep also increases focus. This probably doesn't come as a surprise to anybody. When we don't have a good night's sleep, we often feel very dragged down, very tired. So sleep increases focus, and then sleep also improves digestion and nutrient utilization, and this plays back to the hormone regulation. When our hormones aren't normal or they're not regulated properly, this is going to involve a whole bunch of different body processes, including digestion and nutrient utilization. So that's how sleep can really have an impact on nutrition. So if you have trouble falling asleep, these are different ways to wind down at night so you can get a good night of rest. So a good rule of thumb is no technology 1 hour before bed. There's something to do with that light in the technology that impacts our ability to fall asleep. Another great way to wind down is to read a book, just to settle your mind, put your mind at ease so you're not thinking about a whole bunch of things before you go to bed. Drink a cup of tea. The warm tea helps calm our body down at night. Another great way to wind down is to stretch or do yoga, or to take a hot shower or bath. So any one of these may help you. Some of them might not help you, but it's all about what works for you. So how much sleep do I need? As athletes, at the very least, you need 8 hours, and I would even be willing to say you need up to 9 or 10 hours of sleep a night to actually feel rested. So don't cut yourself short on sleep. Make sure you go to bed at a reasonable time, and make sure you plan ahead too. If you know you're going to have an early morning, make sure you plan to go to bed earlier that night. Get everything that you need to get done earlier in the day so that you have time to sleep. I know sleep can be very hard sometimes, but again, as being athletes, you guys need to prioritize making sure that you're getting enough rest. So we have to stay on top of our game, literally. You want to do a daily check-in with yourself. So ask yourself how you are feeling mentally, emotionally, and physically. Because when we're not feeling like ourselves, we are not going to be able to perform at our best. And that should come as no surprise. So based on your daily check-in, make a plan. Assess what you need to do to take care of yourself. Maybe it's, taking a nap, or getting an extra cup of tea because you just feel like you're a little bit more stressed out that day. Do whatever works for you. And we'll talk about ways to address different types of self-care in the next slide. So after you make your plan, adjust as needed. Sometimes our plans don't always work out, but it's important to be flexible when it comes to our health. So we always want to be putting our health and ourselves first, to make sure that we are able to perform at our best. So the different types of self-care that will help you guys make sure that you're taking care of yourselves. First is physical. So you guys do enough of exercise, which is a type of physical self-care. So I'm not going to hit on this too much, but there are other forms of physical self-care, like eating right, getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, resting and doing injury prevention. So doing all those physical therapy sessions that you need to do. Maybe it's stretching a little bit more, icing more. Those are different forms of self-care to make sure that our physical body is staying healthy. So then there's also a type of self-care that's social self-care, and this is hanging out with friends, being alone, calling a loved one, or going out to eat. Some people get a lot of energy when they hang out with their friends. Other people recharge by being alone, having their time to themselves. Some people always feel better after they call a friend or maybe a parent. And then it's not possible right now, but going out to eat is also a social form of self-care, again, because you're interacting with other humans. So there's also mental self-care, which could be reading a book, meditation, having a good crying session that helps us release our emotions, and solving a puzzle. So if you're feeling like you're really mentally stressed out, focusing your energy on something else, like reading or meditating, can help us really calm down in a sense. So the last form of self-care that I wanted to talk about that may be helpful for you guys is sensory self-care. So lighting a candle, having your favorite drink, a hot bath, or maybe it's a massage or doing some stretching. So it's very, very important as athletes and as you get older to have a whole bunch of different types of self-care that you can do when you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit stressed out, because one thing isn't enough. You want to have many different forms of self-care. So for example, my forms of self-care are actually exercising, so running and biking, but then I also really like to hang out with my friends to help relieve stress. I like to light a candle, and I also, for mental self-care, I really like to read. So having a whole bunch of different forms can really help us make sure that we're staying on top of our game and make sure that we are being taken care of in ourselves. And you know yourself best, so identify different ways that you relieve stress. So to wrap up, there's a running theme here. Pretty much every week I tell you guys that you know your body best. So, different forms of self-care. You guys know how much sleep you need, things like that. Nobody else can tell you what works best for you, only you can. So identify those different forms of self-care that can help you, because what works for somebody might not work for you, and vice versa. And then again, be flexible with yourself. As athletes, it's really, really hard not to get really hard on yourself and be very competitive. But at the end of the day, you have to, we're all human. We have to take care of our mental health as well. So be flexible with yourself. Take extra time to rest and recover if you need to, mentally, emotionally, or physically. Nobody is going to judge you for putting yourself first. So that is my More Than Just Foods presentation, and I hope you guys gained a little bit more, not just food related, from this presentation, because nutrition really is all about how you are feeling, and it's more than just what you're putting in your body. It's how you're feeling and what you're doing to take care of yourself. So I will see you next week for our last week together, and let me know if you have any questions.